The Mornington Peninsula at Mount Martha. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that part of the world. And prior to that, I lived in the Yarra Valley. And I only moved down to the peninsula about a year or so ago. But when I was back in the valley, I had this great idea. And my great idea was I had 10 acres of beautiful land. We had horses. Everyone who has horses knows how much of a fool I was letting my property have horses on it. We had huge vegetable gardens. We had an orchard with about 30 or 40 fruit trees. Most of them I put there myself. Had a huge enclosed, about as big as this room here, enclosed berry area, and I loved all of that. And I loved having the 5 acres of messmate bush there, and you see all this beautiful land around you, and you're growing all your own things. So it became really clear and obvious that I needed to get my own bees so I could have my own home brew and put my own honey in my own home brew. Well, that's how my journey with getting some bees at home all started. It was literally exactly that. I got so excited that I could do all my own everything just about, but I was frustrated that I couldn't quite do that with the homebrew beer. And that was probably, what are we, 2018? That was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now that happened, and I got my first hive, and ever since then I never ever made honey wheat beer. But that's where my beekeeping journey started, and a lot of people have much more romantic and honourable ways of getting involved with bees. Sadly, mine was just because I wanted some beer. But nonetheless, that idea has taken me, like I have no doubt for many of you, has taken me on an unbelievable journey over many, many years, and it's had great moments and it's had some frustrations. And I had a really good idea again a few years ago, and that was to get involved in software in the beekeeping space. And you might go, where's the connection there? Well, it comes down to a few things up here on this screen. So I'm a recreational beekeeper. I've had anywhere up to 10 hives, and finally I've got that back down to 3, which is kind of handy with the amount of land I'm on now. But I've just played around. I consider myself a complete and utter amateur still, and I don't think that's ever going to change, because I'm constantly surprised and confused and experiencing problems and find it awkward. And I'm reminded I'm not in charge of what's going on, but I do my absolute very best, and I care for my bees a lot. So I'm a recreational beekeeper. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd with just about everything I do. I like to know a lot about it, and I like that fusion of technology where I can. I created this thing called Hive Keepers, which is software for beekeepers to be able to have an app on their phone to be able to keep records of their bees. I'm a bit of a blogger in this space. I like to get onto the computer and tell people what I found out, or what I discovered, or what I stuffed up is probably a highlight. And I don't come at that from any angle of I'm really clever at this, you should follow me. I come at this angle from, hey, I'm just trying to figure this out too. Maybe if I share with you where I'm going well or where I'm not going well, you can learn something, and maybe you can please then teach something back to me. So that's the angle I come at that. And then as you can see, I'm a nerd. Put that up there twice, because I want to make sure that's appropriately represented in who I am. I've had a huge amount of fun over the last however many years, as I know that you guys would have so much fun with your beautiful girls as well. And I really enjoy getting out there in the field and spending time and just doing exactly this. Not so much me watching, but knowing that I could perhaps show someone else what's so awesome and amazing. And I know I'm talking to a group of people here that are converted and love their bees, and it's really hard to be able to speak and explain exactly what it is about them. But when I see that, and I'll put a post on a Facebook page, and I get a couple of hundred likes of people around the world, maybe not even connected to bees, just I can see that they're really excited with that. That makes me happy. And I know that everyone in this room would be a massive advocate for bee health, am I right? Like, you would want your bees to be healthy and well. You want your neighbours' bees to be healthy and well. You want everyone's bees to be healthy and well. So if I can somehow make an impact more broadly than just my own bees, I get excited, and I'm really glad that can happen. I've got the opportunity to do that every now and again. Most of all, as it says up the top left there, bees are fun. Like, it's really fun to get out there and see what's going on. And I mentioned before that I've had many stuff-ups and who else has had a beekeeping related stuff-up? Show me your hands. Good.
Everybody.
I like moving bees in the middle. One of my favourites, moving bees in the middle of the night in a wheelbarrow. Forgot there was a step. Boom, crash. Everything's gone everywhere. Without a bee suit on that night, because and like just dropping stuff, and like I don't want to come across you thinking that I'm like a sloppy worker. It's just that I'm out there to have a go and have a try, and I'm really conscious, and each time I do something like that I learn. Stuff-ups are part of the territory, I reckon, with beekeeping. So I find this element really great, the fun bit of it. Let's move to the next slide. Let me do that. But I also personally believe, and this is not everyone's story, but beekeeping is a social thing, to me, personally to me. And this is back in where I lived in Macclesfield. You heard of that?
Yeah.
Trout farm? Yeah, I know, that's about it. So back in Macclesfield where I lived, that's my boy, and he's now 8, but he was about 6 when I had him out there on this particular day. And I've got a little girl too, who she started beekeeping from 4, and they just love getting out there and involved. And my second favourite thing, other than having my kids out there with me, is recruiting friends to come and hold the smoker while I do my thing. Now, do you guys do that with friends as well, who maybe sort of have an interest and maybe want to know if they want to get some bees of their own? What was that? They want to stay well away. So I've got this ability to convince people it's a good idea to come to my apiary and hang out with me. And I normally actually start by saying, hey, can you just hold the camera? Because I just want to talk to, I've got some people who like to see what I do on YouTube. So can you hold the camera and just follow it around and what have you? And before they know it, like maybe they've held the camera for the first one, but the second one they're doing the work, and the third one they're ready to get their own hive, or they've been stung too many times and they want to leave. There's only one end of the two spectrums there.
I hope there are always young women that come and help.
I hope so. No, unfortunately not. Where are they all? So I reckon the whole social element of beekeeping is unreal, and I love to be able to have people there with me, and then that extended little bit of it, of being able to show that to other people via technology, is really, really satisfying to me. Again, I'm like not an arrogant person. I don't sit here thinking I know any better. I don't want to show my skills or their lack of, because I want a big head in all of this. I just like having that social element and that interaction with other people. I think it's really healthy as well. But there's a flip side to all of this. Beekeeping can absolutely be tragic. Who can recall an experience where they've had that sunken feeling in their stomach when they've gone to do an inspection and they've just thought, oh. Or it might be that yesterday you thought they were thriving, and today you've just walked down there and gone, oh. And it's awful, isn't it? Absolutely awful. And it's these highs and lows that make this whole experience really fulfilling, I suppose. And probably, I don't quite understand why we still push on sometimes after these particular moments, but thankfully the rest of it is so rewarding that when you have these brief moments, you can sort of get by. But with this, to me, there's this huge emerging issue of hives moving in many different directions, and that's increasing in how that's going. I've spent a lot of time moving around and speaking with beekeepers in the southeast of Australia and learning and following how that migratory pattern is increasing, and there's more beehives moving. And you would probably know about the need for more bees for the almond pollination. You've probably talked about that before. But and the emergence of more pests and diseases, and it might just be that some years there's more than other years. It might be that the pests are already there or the disease is already there, but we're just kept on our toes each year because a different one seems to come up a little bit. Then the next year it's a different one that's showing its head a little bit. And now the way that beekeeping is being it's been popularised, and there's so many hives out there, and bees are literally being sent all over the country. we are all involved in that. We're all involved in looking after the health of our bees. Who thinks like bee biosecurity is fun? I think it is really, really boring, and I don't particularly get excited about picking up the Bee Biosecurity Code of Practice and reading that, and I don't particularly get excited about a lot of things when it comes to compliance or doing something someone else wants me to do, because that doesn't resonate well with me. But unfortunately, we are now all part of a bigger system where we need to be taking responsibility, and we've got to do that in whatever way works for us as individuals, as long as we're doing what we need to be to help meet these greater responsibilities that we are now part of. And where I thought that maybe I could have a plane on that, it actually went back to one day, and I'm sure this has happened to at least a few of you, where it had been raining overnight, beautiful day, a bit like today it was, like a nice 20-odd degree day. Finally, it was a calm day. This was about 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, and it was springtime as well, and I was just dying to get out to my bees. Every other day that had sort of been the right temperature, it had been windy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And finally, I got the first calm day, warm enough. Night before there'd been some rain, and I got out there as eager, and I started to go through my hives, and I just checked a hive, and I was writing some notes. I'd been just through another one, found out what I wanted to. I went far enough, I didn't go quite all the way in, because it was still, the air temperature wasn't quite where I was hoping it would be. And then in between all of this, I knocked my record-keeping book off the top of the hive next to it, and it fell in a puddle of water. The only problem is I didn't notice this straight away. And it sat there for probably the next 4 or 5 minutes while I put that hive back together, and when I went to pick it up, it just turned to sludge, and the paper just all fell out, and all the records were destroyed. And that was my beekeeping records from 4 years, and at that particular... And who's not so good at memory? This guy. This guy's not so good at memory. So I can go through my hives, and I reckon I've got a window of about half an hour. If I don't get that down in half an hour, see you later. I won't remember a thing that's happened, unless it's the one that was in the wheelbarrow that fell out. Like, that's burnt into my brain now. But this information will be gone. So I decided that I'd just do the crazy task of making some software. Now, I said I'm a nerd, but I'm not that nerdy that I know how to do the stuff to build it. But I commissioned someone to do some work for me, and they built what's called the Hive Keepers app. Am I there yet? Not quite. Oh, we've gone a bit too far. Anyway, I decided to build an app, and it was crazy looking back. Like, why would you do that? Like, there's absolutely no way it was economically a good decision to do that. I'm just letting you know, if you've ever decided to build software, it's probably not actually as good an idea as you thought, and it probably won't make the money that you think it will, and there's massive downside to that. However, I'm coming with this idea. I've been to Texas, to the North American Beekeeping Conference over there. I've been to the last 2 years of the New Zealand conferences. I went to the Gold Coast. I've been to most of the Vic conferences in recent years. I've been to New South Wales a few years in a row. And that was all in aid of trying to understand what I was doing and learning quickly and connecting with lots and lots of people. And I must say, that was fascinating. So whilst there's this massive downside to doing something as silly as building some software, there was the most unexpected upside, and that was meeting other beekeepers from all over the world and coming across, well, learning. If you go to some of these events, you're seeing some of the best scientists, some of the best professors on the planet that are there to just share the knowledge that they have, and you can learn a huge amount. It's a belief of mine that if you're a beekeeper, you owe it to the bees to understand bee biology. And what you want, day one of getting bees, what you understand about bee biology is probably quite small. And as you continue to do a little bit more, you'll make your own observations and you'll start to understand what's going on, and maybe you read the odd book or two, and you should. and maybe even watch some weird guy's YouTube channel and learn something there, or at least have your mind, make you ask a few more questions. But we need to know and understand bee biology, because once you understand that, you can put treatments and practices into place for problems you see. Or maybe you can see something and you can see you can see a problem unfolding, or you're not sure what it is you see, but you can maybe have some logical answers or information that can get you to a result. So I spent a lot of time trying to learn the bee biology, and like I said at the start, I reckon I only still know that much. That much. It's only a tiny little bit, but a journey well worth having. So maybe I'm a little bit selfish with what I've just talked about over the last few minutes, because what I wanted to highlight was here I was trying to create this particular product, and the personal gain and the personal satisfaction that came from doing this really offset all of the dollar value that I've already talked about, and was an absolutely amazing journey to be able to go through that for the last few years. What I'd like to do, if you're happy with it, I really don't want to bore you with a product. Like, I'm not here as a salesperson. I just like to share and connect with people and talk a bit about bees. And I'm also keen to hear what you've got to say. But maybe there's a few people here who want to see a little bit about what I got up to. Technology hasn't been perfect for me tonight. The product I used to make my phone come up onto there, that would then go up on there, is loading 90% and then stopping. Didn't do that last night, it's doing it tonight. But maybe I can just show you a little bit so you can go, hang on, what's this crazy guy been up to? And you can sort of see what I've been doing. For me, it was about making a product which was easy enough for someone who was a little bit smartphone savvy to be able to grab their device and out in the field record a bit of information. And you might go, what? In a beekeeping suit, in gloves, you want me to record data? And I get it. Like that's an absolutely crazy idea and a thought. And we came up with these, and you would have seen them before, but it's just a stylus. And the stylus works on any of these touchscreen devices, and lets you do whatever you need to do. But at the same time, there's plenty of people out there that aren't so concerned about wearing the gloves side of beekeeping. And then how I actually do it is, once I've inspected a hive, because I like to actually just go through the hive without worrying about this, but I then step into the shade for a few minutes and do what I need to do and record a little bit of detail. So totally understand the technology limitations when you're gloved up, honey everywhere, bees that are less than impressed with you, but we've tried to make it as intuitive and reasonable as possible. And do you know what? I like computer games. You probably could have figured that one out yourself. So it had to be colourful and it had to be simple to look at and feel good. So we made sure that we had lots of maps so you could really hone in on where your hive location was, and you could see where your bees would be foraging. So a 3 kilometre ring that would sit around there, so you really got that impression of, hey, are they really going down there to that genetically modified canola crop? Ooh, topical. But like being able to keep on top of where your bees actually go. And where this is a good tool is, before you even were to go to someone or to go to a new location to put some bees, you can overlay this on that location and see how that's going to go. I do that around where I live now, down on the peninsula, because it's really hard to look over fences when there's lots and lots of them, like in an urban area. So this gives me the chance to really see what's going on. We wanted to come up with a way where, if you've got your hives, that what you see in the app is fairly representative of how you would do it. Now, it absolutely does gear towards having typical Langstroth hives. Like that's where most of this was aimed at, and that's because that's where 95% of what's going on focuses on. So we're dealing with that first. So we've set it up such that this is in an apiary, and each column would represent one hive. And in that hive, you can go in there and I can't really do it clearly on here because these are just images, but you could go in here, you could do an inspection at an apiary level. So today I'm here at the apiary, I'm seeing these plants in bloom and the bees are all over it, and the weather conditions look like this. You could then go and select a hive inspection, which is probably the one where you keep the best information. You would go through and record what it is you see from pests and diseases, general health and observations that you've made. I'm trying to keep this brief because I realise this is less than exciting. Stuff happens that you weren't planning at the start of your day when you went out to the bees. So, as happens at this time of the year in particular, you're out there and all of a sudden you go, wow, 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 lots of queen cells, lots of bees. I need to do something about this, so maybe I'm just going to split them and make something happen. So we wanted to make sure that we could almost always replicate what you're physically doing with how it would appear inside our product, so that you could quickly create another hive whilst on the run and have that information to be able to populate, so you're not going to forget that later that night going, oh, I missed doing that. Move through some of those. You can go back and look at all your inspections at all time and really have a really close eye on what's going on, and you can track your harvest and other details over time to be able to see how that's compared perhaps to previous years. And I'm just going to jump out of that, and I wouldn't have had to if I could quite get this to work exactly how I was hoping it would. Something that is working really well for us is right there. I really don't want to have to hear my voice in this, so I'm going to turn the volume down. Ariana Grande, everyone's heard of her. So there's a feature in here where you can... wrong one, sorry. There's a feature in here where we thought, wouldn't it be good if you could look at the exact same frame over time, take a photo of it, say just the one frame, I'm not talking about every single frame, take a picture of it and see what happens with it each time you've been there. So you can actually track over time what that's looked like. So could you imagine, quite simply, you've got this one frame that you use as a reference each time you go to that hive. You might put it on the side, you might just sit it there and take a quick photo, and it gets logged in the app at that particular spot. And then you can go and look at that and see, well, 3 weeks ago it looked like this. 3 weeks before that, it was just foundation, and you can really see that progression. And why is that important? Well, it's hard to recall that sort of detail in notes, and it's certainly hard to recall that sort of detail from the neck-top computer here. That's just near impossible. So to be able to have that visual representation over time is really practical. And the last bit that I wanted to talk about with this, and then I'll leave it at that with you for the night, is we made this app. We thought we were sort of doing all right. We got a ton of feedback to say, hey, there's all this stuff missing and we need to be able to do that, and we think you should go and do this. And this is the result of that. So what we did was we created, it's only just been released, an online platform. So we've got an app, and then you can go and now log in and see all your data and your information on the internet. Now it's just private for you to see, it's not for everyone else to see. And we tried to make this a bit smarter this time. Again, there's all the same stuff. Like there's a nice map, and you can. This is set up for when I was over in New Zealand. Tell you what, their industry's impressive. They really have worked hard to make a really highly professional. You can see that. You can see that Manuka's doing wonders for them. Wow. So again, we're in here. You can see where all your locations are. It gives you a quick inventory of all your gear. So I've got 7 apiary sites, 15 hives, 37 boxes in total. This many frames. At the bottom here, we put in that you can have this is a hive strength report. Now, you can sort of see it up there. But here it is a quick reference to when you did your last inspection there. How did you rate the strength of that hive? And what we're hoping this will do for beekeepers is this helps you categorise what you might do with that hive this time. And, it's coming to that time of year, I might be wanting to do splits. So I'll make sure I grab my very strong hives to do the splits, or there's a couple of weak hives. I'm not sure how they're going to go. Maybe they're the ones that I'll combine together, or have other plans with. Or it might be that the strong or the very strong ones you're going to use for some queen rearing. So we're just trying to help with that decision making by making it easy to see this information. Quite controversially, we've created a neglected hives report. People don't like that we've called it that. We've made people quite angry, but we're wanting to put in people's mind that a hive inspection. Do you know how many times a year the code says we've got to check a hive? Twice. I think that's a little bit inadequate. Like that's a minimum. To me, that's just a little bit inadequate. But I also believe that a hive inspection is not necessarily pull the whole thing apart and find the queen and get it down every last bit and put it all back together an hour later. I make sure that I'm checking my hives. It's at least a weekly matter, but recording that once a month. And even if I'm not going in, I'm just recording from the outside what it is I saw, just in case then I notice some sort of trend or happening over time. I can look back and go, well, how was it looking back on August the 15th compared to now? So the neglected hives list flags when a hive hasn't had a report written about it for over 30 days. Bad beekeeper. I've got people are sending me emails saying I don't neglect my hive, Simon, but your app tells me I do. But anyway, we're a bit fixed that we can't change that yet. So at the risk of boring you for any longer, I'm very conscious of that. In here you can go and see all your details, you can see where all your different apiary sites are and your hives, and we've tried to make it as visual as we possibly could so that you can really relate to the site, remember what you saw there when you were there last time, and back to that boring bit I spoke of earlier, so that you can be biosecurity compliant. I find that element utterly boring, but it is utterly essential that we're all playing our part with that, is how I see it. I'm going to show you one more thing and then I'm going to see if there's any questions. So under inspections, oops, click it twice. We've tried to make, rather than just a boring list, we've tried to make this a little bit nicer, and all your details can get recorded from an inspection nicely here, and you can go and export them as you need to be able to keep a paper version, because I know that a lot of people like to have that paper version sitting behind all of this. I know that I've just thrown lots out there, and I'm hoping a little bit of it sticks, but if I was to be really, really picky, it's what I just said a moment ago, is that I know that this stuff is not altogether that interesting from the biosecurity element of it, but we all need to be vigilant, and we all need to be playing our little part there. I don't expect most people in this room to want to go and grab a solution like this that helps them order their records, but I can sleep happily with that. But as long as you are managing your records and keeping some sort of logical layout that you can then use to help look after your bees, that's the main thing. If you like a technology solution, that's what we do. It's been really nice to come along and talk to you guys. I'm very grateful to have half an hour of your time, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions if there indeed is any. Oh yeah, you can see a few up the back there.
I just want to look at the app. How much is it, please?
Sure, it's $20 a year. Why we picked that was because we thought that's where everyone would get it from, but that's not quite how it worked out.
A couple of things, Simon.
Yep.
If you're dealing with a couple of hives, I think it's suitable. But if I go to an apiary and checking 150, I find that there's no way I have the time to do that. And it's obviously not designed for that. Voice activated recorder while you're going through your bees is a great idea. You can then go back and transcribe it onto that. My question for you is it possible to make this type of system print out that satisfies the biosecurity's code? So, because they have a set format, is it possible to do a report from that that suits their requirement?
My understanding is that what the reports that we create are more than adequate and would exceed what the biosecurity compliance requirements are. Your first point is about larger operators. So this was always geared towards recreational beekeepers. That was where this started, and we used to say for 25 hives or less was our thing. With making this online portal, well, the online portal was designed just to make it easier to see more reports, to have it more visual, so you can actually see your data a bit better. We felt like just with the app, we're giving you half of a product, and the portal gives you the other bit of being able to really see your data a lot easier and nicer reporting. What we didn't expect out of that is for beekeepers with, say, 50 to 100 hives to say, hey, this is really working for me. It's just a bit tricky for me to navigate because I've got to flick across a bit. So we were surprised that we're actually getting some traction and some interest by larger operators. We're surprised that we're getting interest from university researchers who try to do scientific experiments and really want the high-end details. This goes down to frame-by-frame reporting if you want to. But we're constantly surprised, and we just think we need to make a few changes to make it a little bit more attractive. Not to maybe 150 hives, because like that's pushing it past, but up to 100. Make it easy for those with say 100 and around that mark to be able to use it. But like up to 20 or 30 or 5 or 6 hives on a site, easy. Even if those were spread out over 20 or 30 sites. There are lots of questions.
So, do you need to have connectivity to the mobile network? Because where I live, I don't have mobile phone coverage. Am I just recording on the phone?
At the moment, you do need to be in a network coverage area. Now I realise we're down in Western Gippsland and it's undulating. So that's going to be tricky for some people, I absolutely know that. Our next big development, and I'm not going to put a time frame on it because I'm just recovering from the last one, our next development is to make it offline available so that you can just put the data in, it will sync when it goes back in area. Haven't got that yet. It's coming.
Hi Simon. As you know, I've got the app, and and the other day I was inspecting quite a number of hives, 10 or more, and at the time I thought I haven't got time to sit there and plug it in, so I still write my hive notes on my tin lid. Yep. Just basic notes, and then I go back and then plug it into the phone before the rain washes it away.
Yeah. and that complementary method is what a lot of people
I think you have
doing.
to find what works. Everybody's going to be different if they use the way they do things, but you can adapt it. So
Yeah, that's right. And we sort of feed off what we hear from other people with how we shape and direct the future of the product. So yeah, the feedback's good to get like that. Go on.
Can you back your information? So if I was to choose to take it up at our require 2-3 years records.
Oh, absolutely you could, yep. As long as it fits into sort of the criteria of what's on here. You can't just go and make all your own data entry points. You can put things into notes. You can make as many notes as you want, really. But you'd have to sort of fit it into the spaces that we've got.
Can you do a printout on paper of the formats you've got?
Yep.
So I keep a diary of my hives, and I've done virtually that for the last 4 years, but all by hand. And if you had a better format than what I've got, which I developed myself, could I get a copy of that? And it would, for someone like myself that's not fantastic on the phone, and I get into places where there's no mobile coverage, I just write everything by hand on a big pad with my gloves on. And it's pretty scratchy writing, and then I transfer it by hand afterwards into my handwritten.
I think you're a genius. So what you're suggesting is essentially this, but a blank one, that you can perhaps download as a PDF and print, and then you can record that in your field. So you just want me to make a template? Done. We'll get that up in the next month. You're a legend. Well done. Good idea. All right, that's fantastic. Yeah, it can be something that you just download for free off our website, and you've just got it. I don't know why I didn't bring a few flyers. That would have been smart. But not to worry, it's all good. I do have these really funky styluses, and I brought you a box, and I'd love you to be able to give, well, there's only that many there, there's probably about 70 of them in there, only you're a fairly big club. I'd love for you all to have a stylus tonight, if you like. If you're thinking, but I never use a smart device with a stylus, these pens rock.
You
They've got
will.
a pen on the other end, they're the best pens ever.
Better than a sticky phone.
Promise you, they're a real win. Anything else anyone wants to throw out there?
Well, the other thing is too, I take a film sometimes of when I'm catching a swarm, and I've got my mobile phone perched in a tree on the ground or something, but actually operating the camera and getting it to start and stop.
That's what you want.
That would work on that situation too.
And they're bulletproof. Or beekeeper proof, maybe I should say that. The only person that stuffed one of these up was my boy. You saw a picture of him before. When he was a lot younger, he just chewed it. I've dropped these, done all sorts of things, and they last forever.
Still work with screen covers on.
Absolutely do. Yeah, work a treat. Really good. You can get cheap ones from like Office Works as well, but these ones are about 1,000 times better than that. You guys have been awesome. Thanks very much for your time.